So I heard about Maureen from a friend. We have a mutual friend. And he comes to me and he's like, dude, you got to check out this girl's Instagram, her social media. She's crushing it. She's putting a ton of good stuff out. She's running this business. So I'm like, all right, I check it out. And I start scrolling and I give her a follow and I keep getting these videos left and right every single day. And I'll tell you three things that I took away from her content. Number one, she doesn't give a fuck. And that's a compliment. That is a compliment. Number two, she works very hard. Number three, she makes everything seem so simple and so easy. It's like running a six-figure business online. Any single person can do it. And it like gives you this sense of confidence. And it's something very impressive. And so if you're listening to us right now and you're like, well, what am I going to get away from this podcast? Let me tell you, Maureen has scaled a personal brand to 119,000 followers on Instagram, almost at 120K. A six-figure business with zero college degree at the age of 21. She helps entrepreneurs and clients around the entire world, and she is a co-founder of an app. I just downloaded this app, and I'm fired up about it, and it's called Rejecto with almost 10,000 users. So Maureen, thank you so much for coming on Gross Potential. We are so excited to have this conversation.
I'm so excited. No, I love your energy. And same thing happened with me with you. Like, I first saw you on my For You page and I was like, this guy's crushing it in life. I was like, this is insane. I was like, I love this content. And then I clicked on your page to go follow you. And then I saw we had a ton of mutuals.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way we have mutuals. So then I sent text messages to two of my friends. I was like, do you guys know Anthony? And then one of them pinged back and he was like, oh my gosh, she's awesome. And I'm like, you could tell from the content, but it was even cooler to hear it from one of your friends. And it's just crazy how if it weren't for social media, we wouldn't be on this call right now. And it just shows the power of a personal brand because neither of us were strangers to each other, even though we are total strangers. But because of social media, it's like now we're here and this is going to form a new connection,
Well,
which is wild.
absolutely. Well said. I think that's something our mutual friend, one of them, Ryan, and we had him on the podcast. That's what he always talks about. It's like the whole concept of internet friends. There's so many good things from content. You can start a business, you can create impact, you can make money. You get to see videos of yourself years down the line, which is so underrated and cool, but also like the ability to connect with different people all over the world, some of the strongest minds out there that you literally never meet ever in your entire life. It's one of the coolest things ever. And that's why we're here today.
Yeah, I love that.
So, all right, Maureen, the first question I have for you is, can you define what you're doing with your content and your business and who you're serving with this?
Yeah. So when you say define, you mean more like who am I helping or like what do I think about in the day-to-day when I'm creating?
Yeah. Like, who are you helping? What's the purpose of it?
Yeah. So mainly I help coaches set up content automation systems. So I post over 100 videos a month for my personal brand, and I don't spend all hours a day on social media, which is really nice. So I found a way to streamline it by I'm on like 5 different platforms. I only create content usually on one platform. I repurposed all of them and I realized, okay, I grew my personal brand by doing this. So now I help clients around the world easily post 100 videos a month by streamlining it. And then my content also leans into like self-improvement, mindset, health, because I find that like if you want to be the type of person that has the free time to post that much content every month, you need to have all other areas of your life dialed in because it is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs of like, I think content creation is near the top of like you have to have the other base things in place. But when you can add content creation, not only do you get a huge sense of fulfillment because I think fulfillment is in creation and not consumption, but you're also able to make the biggest impact. And the best way to make a biggest impact is to show up like a leader. And the best way to attract followers is to be a leader. So first you have to lead yourself before you can lead other people. And that's why I view my content creation every time. How can I lead myself well? That way I can motivate other people to like be the best version of them.
So you said the word streamline. What do you mean by streamline?
Yeah. So when I create one piece of content, let's say if I film a TikTok, that TikTok will then go out on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, Facebook. Whereas most people are creating content for each individual platform. I've got a Google Drive with over 2,000 short form videos that are beautifully sorted. So I tell all my clients and I tell my friends this, but like if I died today, nobody would know for at least 6 months, if not 2 years.
Yeah, that video is awesome. Okay, so on on the topic of content though, because I'm a content creator,
Mhm.
we've had other content creators on this podcast. I haven't posted them yet, but
Mhm.
something that I try to do every single day, I try to make my videos of high quality. And
Mhm.
I fear sometimes, like if I just sit in front of a camera and put text on the screen and just talk, I can't capture attention. And so
Mhm.
that's why I try to put a lot of effort and all these different angles and different things. But
Mhm.
you are not that way. Like I'm watching a video the other day, you're driving in your car to somewhere, you're like, yo, I got 15 minutes to do this right now. You would never have to worry about income if you just post every single day. I'm like, how the hell does she do this and have so many followers when I'm putting so much effort? Because I just feel like I can't talk. Explain that and why you don't need the highest quality content to make money.
Hmm. I just decided I want to build a freedom-based business where I can live anywhere in the world, be doing anything, and I can still make an income. So at first, I wanted to do, because I'm a perfectionist or used to be, I wanted to do this crazy fancy editing. I wanted to do this crazy fancy style. I waited till I had the perfect whatever, the perfect environment. And then I realized, wait, if I build a business based on that, then every piece of content moving forward, that's what people will expect. If you feed people cereal, they want more cereal. If you feed people steak, they want more steak. So
Okay.
I decided I want to make the lowest viable content possible, because that means that if I can do that successfully, I can get paid to do that for the rest of my life. And I never have to have fancy editing. I never have to have a film team. I never have to have the perfect setup.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if it would work or not, but I just committed to posting 3 videos every day. And then now when I travel, it's like so easy because I can just, like, I was talking to my clients this morning. I filmed 6 TikToks in like 15 minutes a couple days ago at my desk because I just take out my phone and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Then I rotate my office chair and I do one here, blah, 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 blah. Film 6, hit post on TikTok. Those 6 will go out as 6 Instagram reels, 6
Yeah.
YouTube shorts. So it's like, that's already 6 days. That's like a week of content done in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If I took 16 minutes, I would have gotten 7 days of content on 5 platforms. So that's like an insane amount of content. And like a lot of my videos won't do well, but the ones that do, like one of my videos that got 20 million views, it was just
Mhm.
at my desk and I'm just chatting. And that enables me to, people are never dependent on like crazy seasonings or sprinkles. It's like they know this is what they're getting. And then when I do hyper edited content like day in my life, people are like, wow, this is great. And it will get even more views, but people aren't dependent on that.
Great point. Okay, so you mentioned something in there, and I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast,
Mhm.
they're very similar to us, like
Mhm.
huge goals, interpersonal development, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. I think a lot of us too are perfectionists to
Yeah.
some extent. And you
Yeah.
said you were, but you said you used to be.
Mhm.
Was that a conscious decision that you said, I'm done being a perfectionist? And if so, why?
Yes, I used to be the girl in high school with above a 4.0 GPA. Literally 2 days ago, I woke up and I thought I was still in high school, and I had a dream that I missed a chemistry test and my GPA went below a 4.0. Like, it's still coded in my brain to like need to high perform. And I woke up and I just remember like I looked around my apartment and I was like, where am I? Like, did my dad just wake me up freshman year of high school? Like, oh my gosh, I missed my chemistry test. And I woke up and I looked around and I was like, I'm in my 10th story apartment in the middle of Scottsdale, Arizona. And I was like, nobody cares what my GPA is. Nobody's asked me if a couple people have asked, but not many people ask if I have a college degree.
Mhm.
And it's like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait a second. So what I did in high school is I used to be the girl that like had like the 72 different colored highlighters and washi tape in my bullet journal, and like anytime a teacher started saying anything, I wrote it down as like, I gotta memorize this
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
highlight it 50 times. And I was like, I am gonna be successful in life. But then I realized I spent so much time learning, absorbing, and learning more, and I never did anything. I never took action. So I would like, read 100 self-improvement books. Like I've easily read over 100 at this point, and I'd be like, wow, okay, I know what successful people do, but I never did it. So
Yeah.
then I stopped learning to a certain extent and I started acting more, and I started telling myself imperfect action is better than perfect planning. I had always been a perfect planner, but I never went and did the thing. So then I intentionally started to fail, which is how rejection came to be in terms of my personal brand and my personal life. And like once I learned that like the most successful people take the most shots, they don't succeed the most. It's like they fail the most and succeed the most because they take the most reps. That's what changed my life, because I was trying to be successful in school by like getting a 4.2 GPA, but I had nothing to show for it other than a number on a piece of paper. Whereas like now I'll spend like a few weeks reading a book on charisma, and I'll try to change like how I interact with people to like better interact. And that'll be something I actively work on instead of like reading a book and not acting on it. I try to act.
Okay, so you're not opposed to self-improvement books.
No. I love self-improvement books. Like my whole life is self-improvement
Oh,
books.
let's
But
go. Okay,
opposed to self-improvement without action.
I
So
got
a lot of people, it's like they read, they listen to podcasts, they listen to motivational music, but they never go to the gym. And
you.
it's
Right,
like,
right.
it's better to go to the gym 5 times than listen to a gym podcast 7 days a week and never go. But people will confuse and think that like, oh, well, I listened to this motivational podcast, and it's like, who cares? It doesn't actually compound.
I'm curious. What's your top? Give me your top 3 self-improvement books. I'm an avid reader. I've spoken mine to my audience before. What
Yeah.
are yours?
Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was like one of my first ones, and that like changed my perspective. And then I love Essentialism by Greg, I think it's McKinnon. I also love Extreme Ownership. It's a little bit intense, but like anytime I'm complaining,
Yeah,
I just remind myself I'm not in a war right now. I'm not roofing in 120-degree heat. Like, you can pull out your phone and record 50 videos.
yeah.
There's no physical pain associated with that. So I think that book's a little extreme for my preference, but it does help me. And then if I were to go into finance, I love Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. That completely changed my perspective because first I learned how to make money, but then I just had it sitting there. And then I started investing and obviously doing all that stuff. And that's what changed when I learned how to make money work for you instead of you just working for money.
Okay. Okay. Well said. Let's get into Maureen as a teenager in the childhood. I've mentioned this before. I love learning about successful kids at a young age and who they were when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
What did Maureen look like when she was 12, when she was 15, when she was 18? Was she entrepreneurial? What changed?
Yeah, so I never knew it was called entrepreneurship at the time, but I remember, I mean, in middle school, in elementary school, I was making rainbow loom bracelets and selling them to people. And then I would do flower arrangements and like started doing that. And then I started making organic lip balms. And that was really the gateway drug for me into entrepreneurship. I started making organic lip balms at a very young age in my sewing classes. So I'd go to sewing classes and then I sold my lip balms outside the sewing classes when the parents picked up their kids. And I think I was like probably 12-ish
Wow.
at the time. And it just clicked for me that like, wow, this is really fun. Like I get to make something, sell it, make an income. And then in high school, I actually went hardcore on the lip balm business and scaled it on Etsy, got kicked off of Etsy for being under 18, and then moved it to Shopify, started mailing lip balms across the world, expanded to new products. I made them all out of my parents' kitchen, and it taught me how to run a business. And I remember like I was working in my parents' spare bedroom mailing out these lip balms, and I was in entrepreneurship clubs, and I was also in personal finance classes. And I had like my personal finance class pulled up on my laptop, and I just remember like muting the class and just working on my business because I learned 10 times more running my business than this class, which was talking hypotheticals about finance that I couldn't even implement.
Right.
And I think like being in entrepreneurship at a young age, like when I was younger, I would always be making things. So I remember like on my wall in my bedroom, I would use pieces of paper and make these like tubes and funnels that I would tape to my wall, and the whole side of my wall was like this like invention thing, and I'd send like marbles down it. I was always like innovating and coming up with new things. But then I realized like that is the definition of entrepreneurship, is like you're finding cool solutions to common problems, and then you're helping people by doing that.
I gotcha. So it sounds like you just had this passion for innovation and creation, because some people make it an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur because they see the check that you can get someday, or you see that you can have freedom for whatever, or maybe they just they don't like authority figures and they don't like sitting in office. But to you, it was more just the passion for innovation.
Yeah, I think that's really what it was. And I didn't even realize it was entrepreneurship when I started it. Like I didn't even know that that was a
Right.
word. And I just remember, I vividly remember being on my phone in high school, seeing one of those cringy entrepreneurship reels where it's like some girls at the pool, she's running her business from anywhere in the world, she's doing XYZ. And I remember I saw one of those videos for the first time on Instagram with the crazy motivational music, and I just rolled my eyes. I was like, what an internet scam. Like, what? Who are these people? I was probably like 17, 16 at the time when I saw that. Last week, I literally like opened my laptop at the pool that I go to here, and I like logged in, few $1,000 sale that I cashed out, and like I just looked up and I looked at the perfect weather and like the trees hanging off the sides of the apartment, like these ferns, and I was
Oh,
like,
you
it clicked for me. I was like, I am that Instagram. Like, what have I
didn't.
done?
Did you make a reel about it?
No.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you made a reel. I was gonna say Maureen. All right,
Yeah.
that's fire though.
That was a full circle moment because I'm like, wait a second. I wake up when I want to. I take as many calls as I want to. Usually I'm working Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes I'm working Wednesdays. I mean, in the beginning, I was like working 12 hours a day, duct taped to my desk, but like now I still use duct tape, but I don't have to work. And like, what's great is like, I could take 6 months off and be totally fine because I don't have to ask anyone permission. Like,
True.
I mean, I'd ask myself, and I do have clients I'd have to serve, but I don't have to onboard new clients. And at any point, I could stop making content too, which is kind of refreshing.
Right. You slipped a little phrase, just like very nonchalantly.
Mhm.
You duct tape yourself to your desk.
Yes.
What? Explain why you duct tape yourself to your desk.
Yeah, so I started doing this in high school. I was in AP research and AP seminar for like college paper writing, and like it was so much work. And I was writing like a 40, or I think it ended up being like a 50 to 60 page paper.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to get this done. Like, this is taking hundreds of hours, like all the research. And so I pulled out, I like was sitting at my desk and I was like, I just need to force myself to do it. So I like opened the drawer on my desk and I saw a tape and I was like, oh, I'll just tape myself to my chair. That's going to work. And like I did that and then it worked. And then I kept doing it again and again and again. Anytime I had a project or a test, I'd just take scotch tape or duct tape. I'd tape myself to the chair. And people on social media, when I posted that for the first time, which I was kind of hesitant to share because I waited 4 years to share it, people were like, this is so toxic. What if the building burns down? And it's like, you can untape yourself. Like if I need to go get a snack or use the bathroom, I untape myself. But it reminds my brain, you are leaving work right now. You're not productive right now.
Yeah.
Remember that. And then I go right back to the chair afterwards because I know I need to be locked in right now. And then people are like, wow, this is so toxic. And it's like, how toxic is it that I work Tuesdays and Thursdays most weeks and I work like 4 to 5 hours a day now? In the beginning, I was working 12 hours a day, but like it has changed my life. So I sprint really hard in my business and then I relax hard. And then I sprint really hard and I relax hard.
Okay, so two things right here.
Mhm.
I get a ton of DMs about productivity. How do I be more productive?
Yeah.
Do you have productivity tips? Like novelty. That's novelty right there. Never seen or heard that before. What else do you have on the topic of productivity?
Multiple things. So clicker training myself like a dog. So this also gets hate on social media, but anytime I complete an action, I love to like give myself a sticker, as in a sticky note on my huge wall. So like for people listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see this, but like behind me is a massive wall calendar. Yeah. I write my goals on sticky notes, and then when I complete them, I put them on the day that I completed it. So my brain gets addicted to the process of completing goals. So that's one way I do it. The other way I do it is I'll try to associate negative or things I don't want to do to get action items done. So an example would be like, some days I don't want to film content, right? So I'll go on a run and I'll tell myself, you can stop running when you start filming content. So I did this actually yesterday. I went on a run and I was like, I don't want to film content. I was like, you're going to go running. And I was like, okay, I'll go running. And then I tell myself I can stop running if when I stop running, I record a piece of content. So yesterday I posted a video and it was like, I was like catching my breath and I'm like, okay, this is what you should do today. I just posted some random video.
Yeah.
And then I'll edit the video while I walk. And when I finish editing and I hit post and I go back to running. So it's like I pair two productive habits together, but I take the one I'd rather less do and tell myself that I don't have to do it. as long as I'm doing the other thing. So I'll do the same thing with my laundry. I'll be like, I'll have my laundry and then I'll have creation. And I'll be like, if you can create 10 videos right now, or you can fold your laundry. And I pick the one that's easier. So this is exactly what I do when I babysit my younger cousin. It's like I make everything a game. I'll make a list of action items. I'm like, okay, Maureen, you need to do these 10 things. So I'll do this when he comes over to when I used to have a house in Virginia. I'd be like, okay, I'd make it exciting. I'm like, we can either wash my dishes or we can vacuum. And then I'd be like, which one do you want to do? And then he'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm excited to vacuum. And I'm like, perfect. You can vacuum. I'll do my dishes. And it becomes a game because you get a choice.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing in my personal life. I'm like, Maureen, you can either record a YouTube video for your personal brand, or you can close a client on a sales call. Which one do you want?
Gotcha.
And then you can up the ante on choosing one that's more unfavorable to get you to do another one. So I'd be like, do you want to send 100 outbound DMs, or do you want to close 3 clients? And I'm like, I'll close 3 clients today. So I use procrastination on other tasks to motivate me to do the other ones. And then I clicker train that by giving myself a sticker on my action item massive wall calendar. And then I get addicted to the process of finishing.
Okay. It sounds like I love that concept, and it's very interesting, and the whole gamification of it is very cool. It sounds like, though, at the core, I mean, that's just discipline. Like you are saying yourself, well, I have 2 options, but I feel like a lot of people, myself included at times, would be like, I have these 2 options. Maybe, you know what, something bad just happened. I just want to go and watch YouTube. I want to do whatever. But you have discipline to make that decision. How do you get that? Like at the core, where does that come from?
I remind myself of the why, which is commonly talked about. I think it's like overly talked about. But what I do is, so instead of viewing it, let's use the example of posting 3 TikToks.
Yeah.
I don't want to post 3 TikToks. So what I used to say is, oh, no worry, Maureen, you don't have to post 3 TikToks. It's just 3 TikToks. Now I have a Google Doc where I write all the ways that building a massive personal brand will change my life. So for me, it's like, obviously I want family and kids in the future. I don't want to be working when I have kids. I want to just raise kids. Like my overall goal has always been I want to be a stay-at-home mom, but then I realized at 18, I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom at 18. So how can I live a stay-at-home mom lifestyle and stay at home or work from home? So I decided I'd build it for myself before it happens. And then when it happens, I'll do that. But what I tell myself is, okay, Maureen, if you don't post 3 TikToks today, what you're saying no to, you're not saying no to posting 3 TikToks. You're saying no to making over $10,000 this month. And that $10,000 will give you enough money to save money. That way in 5 to 10 years, when you have kids, like, would you rather film 3 TikTok videos today at 21, or do you want to have to film those 3 TikTok videos when you have a newborn baby because you don't have money in the future? Is it a little extreme to think like that? Maybe, but I remind myself that like, it's easier to do it now for my future self. And I'm no longer saying no to 3 TikToks. I'm saying no to my future life. And then it clicks for me that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not saying no to, like, for example, going to the gym. I'm not saying no to the gym today. I'm saying no to, oh, I don't want a fit body in 6 months. And I'm like, well, obviously I want a fit body in 6 months, but I don't want to go to the gym today. So I just switch the narrative to the future. Yeah. And I'm always thinking from a future perspective mostly.
Okay, hold on. I've never heard this before ever. So with a lot of ambitious people, maybe it's status, maybe it's fame, maybe it's money, maybe it's legacy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like that's the case for you. I've never heard a very successful entrepreneur at 21 say, my goal someday is to be a stay-at-home mom and raise my kids. So I'm going to work my ass off right now to build a foundation. But when that day comes, boom, that's it. Mm-hmm. But am I right with interpreting that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You're not going to run a business. You're not going to work at all someday when you have kids.
Sort of. So I'm going to set it up so that the passive income's there, so that it takes like 1 to 2 hours a week to run. So like basically, I mean, even right now, if I shut off my work, I'd still be making digital product sales every single week. I'd still be making membership sales, and I'd log in like 1 or 2 calls a week. So I want to set it up so that in the future, when I have kids, I work when they're young. I work like, okay, 3 hours a week, maybe. So like the bare minimum, but the income I'd be making off that is so optimized where at 3 hours a week, I can have 3 high ticket clients where they're paying me over $1,000 an hour for high ticket coaching. I can easily hit over a $10,000 a month, or in the future over a $50,000 a month. But it's like so optimized. So my goal has always been like, I mean, I always thought, okay, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, but like, how can I set that up today for that in the future? Because I noticed like I love spending money on nice food. Like I love eating organic, grass-fed, whatever, and it's like that's expensive. So I realized, okay, wait, if I can make really good money now, I can do that, which helps my health. And it's like, what do I want? It's like I want health, I want like good connections with family, and it's like money does give that sense of security. And I think the best analogy I've ever heard in terms of money is like money is like water. It's like when you don't have it, you notice it. When you have it, you don't notice it. I don't want to ever notice money. I just want it to make the rest of my life easier. That way, yeah, in the future, it's like, great, I get sent a check every month potentially from my businesses, but they're so streamlined that it's like my number one priority can be my kids and my family. And it's like, honestly, I know a lot of like entrepreneurs will be like, oh, I just want a business. Or people will be like, I just want kids. I feel like people usually fall in one of two categories. I feel like I fall in both of like, I want the business to support a family at the highest level possible without taking up my mental energy. And I want the business to give me back peace and serenity in every other area of life because I'll never have to worry about income and I'll never have to worry about a boss is never going to tell me, Maureen, you have to come in even though you have a 6 month old. It's like, no, I am my own boss. I'm going to say that, no, I don't have to.
Okay, guys, this is very impressive. Like, truthfully, Maureen, and we just had a conversation before this. I asked her what her last name was, and
Yeah.
she goes, well, I actually don't put my last name on social media because someday when I get a husband, I'm going to take his last name, and then it's going to screw up all my SEO. So I'm going to wait until that day. Who thinks like that? Who thinks that far in the future at 21 and has that much strategy? You guys just heard the strategy right now. It's seriously impressive. I have one question about what you just said though.
Yeah.
When you say right now, I think of Maureen, like you work very hard, very smart, intelligent, you grow this business. You're gonna have kids someday, and then you want to ease off and put all the effort into raising children, which I have a ton of respect for.
Mhm.
Something I've noticed in my life and with other very driven people, actually just people no matter what,
Mhm.
happiness really stems from having worthwhile goals. Like you
Mhm.
always really need to be working towards something. For my
Mhm.
first question is, do you agree with that or do you disagree?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so you agree with it. Is raising children enough of a worthwhile goal, or do you think at some point this is going to drive you crazy and you're going to go full force back into the business?
Great question. I think I want to do exactly what my mom did, which my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she also had a horse boarding business, so she runs a farm and she does wedding photography. So when my sister and I were little, she eased off in training horses and she eased off in her wedding photography business to fully
Yeah.
focus on us. As we got older, we actually helped her in those things. So it's like I think the best thing I've heard about parenting, and obviously I can't speak to this. I'm not a parent, so I don't even feel like I should have an opinion on this, but I think babysitting, I've noticed this. It's like you don't need to entertain kids so much as like just bring them along with what you're doing. So like when I was young, it's like my mom was fully stay at home, but then we would go with her to the barn to like help her train horses and we'd watch her do that, and it was a learning experience for us. And her number one priority was always, I always felt like it was us, her
Yeah.
children, but she was still running a successful horse training business and she still did wedding photography. And like she helped me set up one of my first businesses, which is like I went around and I took photos for people and she taught me how to use a camera and she taught me how to do that. So it's like I would love the idea of like being able to ease off of my business so it's fully optional and it's still paying really well every month while my kids are young. That way I can just focus on the kids, because I think like I want to have that sense of peace. I never want to work out of a place of necessity. I want to work out of a place of like it be an option.
Yeah.
But then like when my kids are older, like I'll do this when I'm babysitting my cousin. I'm like, hey, do you want to like help me structure this email? And like it literally becomes, I don't like using tech around him, but like we'll take out a piece of paper and I'm like, here's how we're gonna do marketing. And we practice spelling as we write an email. So I'm actually getting so much done with him with me. And he's like 9, 10 years old right now. we get so much done together. And I'm like, that is such a sense of fulfillment because I realized the thing that I love about my business most
Yeah.
is motivating and nurturing. And that's the thing I love about watching my little cousin is like my job is being positive and motivating, nurturing and teaching. And what is my job right now as a coach? I motivate, I nurture, and I teach. So I think you can make the biggest impact with your immediate family, obviously. And I think a lot of people will focus on business because they think, oh, I'm making the biggest difference in the world. Where personally, I believe that like my biggest impact will be made on my kids' lives. Like my mom changed my life way more than she changed the life of that one wedding she took a photo of
Right.
5 years ago. Like she had the biggest impact on my life. So I want to always have my kids as the number one priority there. But then I think when they get older, be able to work them into it becomes a learning experience, it becomes a bonding activity where we can do it together.
Yeah.
Because I think a business can be whatever you want. Like at some phases, I could just do email marketing for 3 years. If
Mhm.
I'm teaching my kids how to spell, it's like we could do it together, which is cool.
Seriously impressive. You're going to be a very good mom someday. I can just kind of get that. Okay, so next question. We talked before on an intro call. You brought up a couple of very interesting points. I mean, one of them, you got rejected from Harvard, or sorry, waitlisted at Harvard. It seemed like it changed a lot of stuff. You also, it may have been at 18 years old. After I think getting waitlisted from Harvard, you're like, well, screw it. My self belief is actually a lot better than I think. I can do whatever I want. You applied to a government agency
Mhm.
and you got the job.
Yeah.
40 and 50-year-olds with no college degree, minus all the requirements.
Mhm.
Tell us about this.
Yeah, so I watched Legally Blonde, and then I was like, wait, she applied to Harvard? And I was like, why don't I do that? So I applied to Harvard, and then obviously that took a while to apply, but I applied, and then they waitlisted me, and it clicked. I was like, what? I was like, I had a horrible SAT score, but because it was COVID, I opted to leave my SAT score off the Harvard application. So I was like, perfect. So I got waitlisted, and then it like that moment changed it for me because it like completely changed my mindset. So then I was like, wait a second, Maureen, you want to get a good GPA that way you can get into the best college. Why do you want to get into the best college? That way you can get the best 9 to 5 job ever, and you can make amazing income, and that's going to give you freedom in the future. So I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why don't I just skip college and go straight to working a successful 9 to 5? So I heard from my entrepreneurship teacher that this marketing agency that specialized in like government marketing was hiring. So I was like, oh, I'll just apply anyway. So I like went on the website and it said, oh, you need a college degree and you need multiple years outside of college. So I submitted a resume and I was completely transparent. I told them, I was like, hey, I don't have a degree. I don't have this. I don't have that. However, and then I just explained my views and I explained the success I had in my cosmetic business and then the other random jobs I had worked through high school. And we went back and forth talking about the algorithm. I kind of talked about how I grew my first Instagram page for my first business. And then I went through like a 3-stage interview process. And at the end of it, they offered me the job. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even need a degree. They said you needed a degree. And then it really clicked for me that like life is a game. You can apply for anything. And the worst thing someone can say is no. And you're in the same place you started. And once that clicked in my brain, everything changed.
Yeah.
I turned down that job, turned down college. Like I got into a bunch of other colleges, but I turned down all those acceptances. And then I got rejected at Harvard once the waitlist process finalized. So now I have no college lined up and no job. And then a lot of my friends and some family members were like, Maureen, what the heck? You just got like all these amazing opportunities and you said no to all of them. But I remember listening to a podcast and they said like when you get to a certain level of success, it's like about saying no more than saying yes. And for my entire life, I had said yes to everything. I was in every after school club basically. I was like any extracurricular I could do, I said yes. And then I started saying no. And I really thought, what is my dream life? And I was like, my dream life is working for myself. So then I think I did even more future painting. I was like, okay, great. What is Maureen, the most successful version, do? I would go to college, get a good college degree, get a 9 to 5, make $100,000 a year plus in a 9 to 5. I'd do that for 5 years until I burn out. Then I'd start a business, work for myself, do that for 5 years. Probably after that, get married. And I was like, wait a second, why don't I just skip to the run my own business, making a lot of money stage? So I did that, and then it worked. I mean, the first 3 months didn't work, but then it worked, and I was like, whoa.
I gotta think though, I think a lot of people think that way, but what's so difficult is the amount of risk you're taking. I think
Yeah.
part of the reason why college is it's attractive. I think college is great. Am the person I am today because of this school. I would not trade that for the world.
Mhm.
But it's also kind of a safety net.
Yeah.
Like you have this to fall back on.
Mhm.
So I understand your vision. I understand what you're trying to do. How did you just say, screw it, I don't need a safety net?
Mhm. I always thought college will always be there.
Okay.
So if anything, I'm just delaying. So I viewed my life in terms of a timeline, and I was like, what if I jump past college, jump past the job, jump straight into the business? If I jump here and I fail, I'll just slide back down the ladder and I can enroll in college. Or
I
I can slide back down the ladder and I can roll into a 9 to 5. Or I can slide back down the ladder to a failing business and start a new business and try to fail there. But I was like, why not just take a huge leap over everything
yeah.
and jump into the most successful pool possible? See if I can swim. If I can't swim, I can always go back to square one, because square one is always going to be there, but square 10, that's where people are trying to get. So I was like, why don't I just jump straight into square 10?
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So on the topic of rejection there, people are terrified of rejection. And
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with rejection either. Like, I don't like it. You
Yeah.
seek this out and you made an app about it. You co-founded an app. Why do you seek out rejection?
Yeah. Because I realized that, like, if you can get addicted to the process of failing, then everything in life's a win.
Okay.
So when I close a client and I make several $1,000s, what a win. Amazing. If I pitch a client and I'm like, hey, it's $12,000 to work with me, and they say no, I'm like, okay, thank you. Have a nice day. And I log it in my Rejecto app and I'm like, that's a win. I pitched. I did everything I could. It was their decision to say no. I did all the things I could have done. I took action.
Right.
So I reward myself for failing and I reward myself for winning, but I don't reward myself for indecision and I don't reward myself for a lack of action. And I think a lot of people think that by not failing, they're winning. And it's like, well, failing's better than not failing because at least you're learning.
True. Okay, so I think I may know the answer, but like what is rejection specifically tied to? For example, I made a podcast the other day about talking one thing that has completely rewired my discipline and helped so much. And that one thing is I consistently, every single day, I seek pain. Whether it's a cold shower, whether it's getting up at 5 in the morning, whether it's going through mental warfare for an hour of the hardest cardio I've ever done in my life, which is boxing.
Yeah.
Like I seek this because it specifically helps my discipline. What
Mm-hmm.
does rejection help with?
Mm-hmm. Same exact thing. It's just
It is.
pain. Like you get used to the pain. And I think I used to do cold showers every morning and I was like, that's great. I love the cold plunge, cold shower thing. I still do cold plunges, but I was like, wait a second, what if I actually did things that if they happened, it would like change me? So I think a lot of people do rejection and they'll lay on the street and they'll have people walk by them. That doesn't change much,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't have an impact on your life. And sometimes I will do that stuff and we'll film it and we'll use that as marketing content because it's good for the app.
Yeah.
That is action, I guess. But like the bigger thing is like, what if if my body can only withstand 5 squares of pain a day? I used to use those 5 squares on cold showers or like drinking a smoothie intentionally that tasted horrible in the morning because I was like, then everything after that smoothie will taste better. Or like I would use my 5 units of pain on random stuff, like, oh, let me do 2 hours of yoga because that must make me successful or something. And then I started using those 5 units of pain or whatever you could tolerate, and I put it towards things that if they actually said yes, it would change your life. So like that's when I stopped reading self-improvement books. And like I could, to a certain extent, I think reading self-improvement books elicits pain because you're realizing all your gaps. So I removed that and
Yeah.
I just added action. And then with time, I was able to increase my pain tolerance mentally to handle more. So like, I mean, last week, that's like when I called the news and I was like, hey, can I be on the news? And like, I was just unbothered. I'm like, what if they say no, it doesn't matter. And then after calling tons of places, it's like now on Monday morning, I'll be live on the news. And I'm like, what? What? But it's like, you just had to make the call and you have to feel uncomfortable on the call because people
Yeah.
are like, they'll ask you weird questions, but you just got to keep asking.
Yeah, I saw your news thing. So you called them or you just emailed a bunch of news stations? And also, if you want to share,
Yeah.
how did you pitch yourself to do that?
Yeah, I'll share everything. So we were filming a YouTube video about the app.
Okay.
for marketing content. And in that YouTube video, which hasn't gone live yet, but when it does go live, it was filmed by Ryan and he did an amazing job filming it. Basically he followed me around all day and I just tried to get rejected as many times as possible in a day to show people that like, look, it's okay. I wanted to die doing it. Like I was doing handstands at a busy intersection and I
I
don't know
saw
how to
them.
do a handstand. That was bad. And I asked construction workers if I could jackhammer and I'm wearing like a blouse. That was bad too. But one of the things we did was I was like, okay, let me call news stations. So I have no idea how to get on the news. Like I have no idea. I've never done that.
Right.
So I went on ChatGPT and I said, how do you get on the news? And I hit send. And then it was like, you call. And I was like, okay, well, can you give me phone numbers for local news stations in my area? And ChatGPT was like, sure, here you go. And I was like, great. So I just copied and pasted like phone number after phone number after phone number. And I just started calling. And it was a holiday. So a bunch of them didn't pick up. And then a lot of them randomly rerouted to completely unrelated things. I don't remember, but it was like, oh, this is a library or this is the Congress of blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that's not the news. But called a bunch. One of them picked up and she was like, hi, this is blah, blah, blah with Fox 10. And I was like, hi, like, who's the point of contact I should reach out to about getting a story featured? And I just said it very confidently. And I pretended, what would the version of Maureen that is on the news act like? And I
Right.
stepped into that. So I thought, okay, if Taylor Swift is calling the news, is she going to be like, excuse me, would it be okay if you transferred me to maybe Jessica? I don't know if I'm asking too much. Or would she be like, hey, super friendly, who's the point of contact to get a story featured?
Yeah.
She would say it, not justify, just say it. So I was like, okay, great. So I asked the lady, I was like, who should I talk to? And she's like, I guess that would be, I think she said the name was Jessica. And I was like, okay, perfect. Who else should I contact? She was like, oh, well, that would also be insert whatever name. And I was like, awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'm huge on like positive reinforcement. If someone's being nice,
Yeah.
be nice. Also, when people are mean to me, I try to be nice. But then I was like, amazing. Could I get their email addresses? I just asked the next logical question. Can I get their email addresses? And then she was like, yeah, I guess you could. So she gives me their email address. And
Yeah.
I was like, great. And what was your name? And she says her name. And I was like, I just like want to appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for giving me their email. Like, I hope you have an amazing day. And she's like, yes, of course. You have a great day too. Hung up. I waited 2 days. In 2 days, I sent an email and I was like, hey, Jessica, and insert name. I spoke with Cindy last week or whatever her name was. She mentioned that you guys would be the perfect person to reach out to about this. I just wanted to ask. And I just come from a place of like, hey, just wanted to ask, like, maybe this is a no. Like, then in which case I'm a little bit more like asking with like the double eyelash flutter of like, it's okay if you tell me no. Whereas on the first call, I'm more direct.
Yeah.
And then within, I think it was 24 minutes, they responded and they're like, we'd love to have you on. We can feature you live at 8 a.m. And I was like, what the heck? So I was like, that is crazy.
So are you just going on there to talk about what? Your business or what is it?
I'm going to talk about rejection. So what they asked me for is they asked me to come up with a list for their news anchors to get rejected. So they're going to film their news anchors getting rejected. And then I'm going to come on and then they're going to talk to me about rejection and talk to me about the app that I launched. So I Googled it and it said like most news features for advertising, it's $8,000 for 30 seconds. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but when the initial Google I did, and I was like, wow. So you'll be on the news, you'll be getting views, and it's free just because you asked to have a story about it and you turn it into motivation. You're motivating people and it's not an advertisement because you're motivating.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy.
That is crazy. And oh my God, I know. Like it's totally free publicity. It's like social media, except way more mainstream. That is awesome. Good for you. On the topic of rejection also, give me the craziest thing. Maybe it's a challenge. The craziest challenge you've done for rejection that's been a success, but then also a failure.
I think one of the hardest things, which is, it doesn't sound hard, but it was hard for me, was like I was walking down the street and I hadn't gotten my rejection point for the day. And I was in this fancy town and I saw these two people eating on the side of the road at this like overpriced restaurant. And I was like, oh gosh, I need to do my rejection challenge before I drive home. Cause I was working a regular job then. This was like in high school, like just working hourly. And I was like, gotta do it before I drive home to my parents' house. So I was shaking, and I went to this nice restaurant, and I asked for a table alone. So I sat at a table alone, and this sounds like borderline stalker, but like I was at this table alone, and I was like, I'm gonna ask those two people if I can eat dinner with them. They have no idea who I am. I'm just gonna like get up from my table where I'm sitting alone. I'm gonna ask if I can eat with them because they'll definitely tell me no, and then I can just go on with my day. My heart was like, I was terrified. I like talked myself in and out of it 5 times. I was sitting at my table, like I was like, should I order and then ask them? Or should I ask them and then order? And I was like, so I was like, Maureen, just take the first step, stand up. So I was like, okay, I can do that. I stood up and I'm like, no, this is awkward because if I don't do something after standing up, this is gonna be so I'm just standing up outside this restaurant because there was like outdoor seating. And then I was like, just take one step. So I took one step, and now I'm walking in the direction of this table. And I'm like, well, now what? So I had to do it. So I walk up, and they're in the middle of a conversation. I'm like, excuse me? And they were like, hi. And I was like, this is going to sound really weird, you guys. And they looked at me, and they were like, what? I was like, can I eat dinner with you? And then they were like, and they both looked at each other and they're like, yeah, sure, pull over a chair. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
So we ate dinner. We talked for like 2 hours, talked about real estate, business, investing, best conversation ever. And then at the end of the meal, we like didn't exchange any contact information, didn't do anything. And we were just like, wow, that was like an amazing dinner. We were like, have a great day. Like, cause
Yeah.
I didn't want to seem like I was trying to get something out of it. So I was just like, have an amazing day. I just got up and walked away.
Wow.
And like,
Two,
that was
two
it.
hour conversation from that.
Yeah, we talked for like an hour and a half. It was probably easily 2 hours at that point. This happened like a few years ago, but I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And once I sat down, I wasn't scared anymore.
Okay. I mean, I was like, you were telling me that story and my heart's racing. I'm like, holy cow, I can't imagine if I'm in this situation right now, what I'm going to be like. What about a failure? Is there anything that you got rejected from that you could call it a failure that was very embarrassing?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, there's been so many. So when I first started my business, I told everyone, okay, I'm skipping college or I'm taking a gap year at least, and I'm not going to work this job. And everyone was like, good luck. So I like go to Staples. I print out all these brochures for my business, and I'm like, Marines marketing. I do social media marketing for companies. So I spent a ridiculous amount of money at the time because I was like 17, 18. Like I spent a ton of money on these fancy brochures, folders, stickers, business cards. And I was like, I'm going to be successful. So I spent all day long walking around to businesses, handing out these flyers, talking to people, and I was like, hey, can I talk to the person that manages this business? And then they like come out from behind the store or whatever and be like, can I do your marketing for free? Like I want to run your social media for free. If it works really well, maybe in a few months you hire me because you generate more sales.
Okay.
And I pitched to like, I went through the whole stack in a day. Not a single person said yes. Every single person was like, oh, we'll think about it. Thank you. Like, and I was offering free marketing. Now I have a wait list of 370 clients. And I'm like, what? The only thing that changed was like, mainly I built a personal brand. So now I'm booked out because of the personal brand. But I was like, that day, it was just rejection after rejection after rejection. And I think a majority of people after seeing that would have been like, this business is not working. This is a bad idea. Nobody wants marketing. Nobody's even accepting free marketing, let alone paying. Like if I start to charge, people are definitely going to say no. So it was just like constant rejections. I went out the next day because I still had flyers in my car. Maybe it was like a couple days after, and I handed out those. Nobody called me back. Nobody wanted it. And I was just like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to sign a client. I'm going to take that step, right? And then once I sign a client, I'll sign 10, but I need a step.
Yeah.
And once you step, it's awkward to step back. So I was like, okay, I'm going to build a personal brand for my marketing business. I'm going to post content every single day. And like literally for the first several months, everyone's like, how the heck are you a content coach? You have 52 followers. And I'm like, I'm a content coach because I had success doing marketing, working my regular jobs, but I hadn't yet built a brand for me. I had always been behind the scenes in businesses.
Yeah.
So getting all those rejections, I was like, I think a lot of people would have quit then and thought this is stupid to continue. And maybe at the time it was stupid to continue, but then it worked.
Yeah. I think, okay, so that story with the whole marketing agency, I think there's a lot of businesses. I think the online business community can get very saturated, and you have a lot of different people that are doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to understand, or the person that's listening to this right now, let's just say they want to be an online business coach or a marketing agency owner.
Mm-hmm.
How do they differentiate themselves in such a saturated market?
Yeah, number one thing, and I have a very clear answer to this, which I would literally pay $10,000 to hear as my younger self.
Yeah.
Build yourself. When you
Okay.
can do it for you can do it for others. So when I walked into those businesses, I didn't have a personal brand. I didn't have good marketing for myself. So why would anyone hire me? So I was like, let me build me. So I built me. I posted content every day, got my first 100 followers, first 200, first 300, first 400. Then I started getting, 500, 1,000 followers, and I was able to go to businesses and be like, I built 1,000 followers organically. I can do that for you too. I had one of my friends ask me yesterday, she was like, how can I become a marketing specialist? And she's like the sweetest person ever. And I was like, I love talking to her anytime we call. And I'm like, one, submit 100 applications to become a marketing specialist instead of one. Like, submit 100. Once you get the job, figure it out. Or master it yourself for yourself. Then people will naturally want to hire you. It's exactly like fitness coaching.
Yeah.
I hired my fitness coach because he's fitter than I am.
Right.
People will hire you for marketing if you're better at marketing than they are. If you have 52 followers on Instagram and you expect to sign a $10,000 client for marketing, it's not going to happen. It wasn't going to happen for me at 52 followers. It won't happen for you. If you do, I'm impressed. Like, that's awesome. But like, you build you. And when you build you, people will follow. But it's like a leader that's not confident. Why would we follow a leader that's not confident? We wouldn't.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, at the start, you don't have any credibility.
Yeah.
And so you make a personal brand around marketing. I can be your marketing coach,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have any clients to do that work for. So you're posting content about how I can help you, but you don't have any proof. And I'm a little bit confused with that.
Yeah, good question. So I had the proof. I was talking about my organic lip balm business, which I had grown to like 6,000 followers. So in my first business, I was able to talk about when became marketing content. I was like, here's how I grew my lip balm page to 6,000 Instagram followers. One, I did this. Two, I did this. Three, I did this. And then when I was working jobs in high school, I worked marketing jobs in high school. So bare minimum, like I was making $12 an hour. I did the marketing for a magazine, then I did the marketing for a polo club, then I did the marketing for a winery. So when I started my personal brand, I was like, this is the marketing strategy I used when I worked at this magazine. I did XYZ. So I think like if you can get into an industry, maybe you start with working a job, learn the skill set at a job, because a lot of those jobs taught me. And it was mainly my first lip balm business that taught me how to go viral on Instagram, because I had gone viral multiple times in my organic lip balm business. But then when I started a business around me and my personal brand, I just leaned into my previous experience at those other places. But maybe if someone's coming into this and they have no experience, I would just tell them apply. Because like when I
Yeah.
got that polo club job or the magazine or the winery job, the only thing I did was someone was like, oh, we have an opening, and I applied even though I thought I would get rejected, and then they accepted me. And it's like at the time the only thing I had was a slight skill set in lip balms, but it's like maybe you start making lip balms and then that will yield a skill set. But basically, the number one thing I tell is start and apply, because it's going to snowball into something bigger.
Well said. Well said. All right. Well, we are at the end of our conversation. There's one last question I have for you, and we'll leave it off on the topic of self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I am a person that adopts the mentality that every single thing that happens is my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. It's my fault, because that puts control in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think you adopt the same mentality, but you have a unique way of saying it. And I believe it's a director versus a character in your life. Explain that mindset to us.
Yeah. So a lot of people talk about this concept on social media. So it's not an original thing to me, but so many people think they're the main character. You're not the main character. Don't wait for the plot to hit you. You go make the plot. So like I decided, a few months ago, I was like, the most successful version of Maureen would live somewhere with cute palm trees, and it would be perfect weather, and there would be a pool, and it would be flowers outside. Like I'm looking at my banister right now, and I'm like, it looks pretty nice out there. I was like, okay, great. I'm the director. In Maureen's plot, in 3 months, the actor, Maureen, is moving to Arizona in the middle of nowhere where she only knows one person, and she's going to be successful there, and she's going to live in this beautiful environment, and she's going to figure it out. So I shipped my main character to a new location, and then I figured it out instead of waiting, because I think so many people wait until they get a job invite or until they wait till another actor is like, oh, come forward. It's like, I don't wait. I just view my life like I can do anything. Let me write it into my script and then go act on it.
I freaking love that. That is the best way to end this podcast. Holy, Maureen, thank you so much for coming on. I think the knowledge that you just dropped for me and for everybody who else is listening to this, I really think it's game changing. So thank you so much. Everybody listening to this, if you got to the end, I have one ask for you. Please rate the show. Please share this with a friend. Follow us on social media. I'm telling you this, and I say it every time. We will be a top 100 Spotify video podcast someday, but we can't do it without you guys. Thank you always for your support. Believe foolishly. And Maureen, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.